Chapter 1662. As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Yusheng flashed and brought the unconscious Hishan before Chumoli. Ling Yusheng was extremely fast. In a short distance, even nascent soul cultivators could not catch up to him. Just now, he had pretended to be a suspicious person and lured Xingdanqing and the others here. Di Yudao obviously noticed his movements. Seeing the unconscious Hishan at the side, he knew that things were bad. But he could not catch up to Ling Yusheng's speed. Chumoli lifted Hishan's collar. Somehow, Hishan opened his eyes slowly. His consciousness was still blurry. Seeing Di Yudao, Hishan immediately screamed in fear, "Master, Master, save me. They destroyed all the beast soul elixirs and still want to take Suzy away." "Master." Chumoli could not help but chuckle. "College Chief Zhai, if I remember correctly, Hishan should be your confidant, right? What are the beast soul elixirs he mentioned? Why don't you let the people from the Alcade branch bring junior brother Su back?" At this moment, Hishan's muddled thoughts slowly came back to him. When he saw the people gathered around and Di Yudao's pale face, he was immediately flustered. "Master, Before Hishan could finish his words, Di Yudao suddenly moved and slammed his palm on the top of Hishan's head. In an instant, his brain exploded and his neck was broken. Hishan did not even make a sound before he died. Before he died, he stared at Di Yudao in disbelief, as if asking, "Master, why did you do this to me?" However, Di Yudao did not even look at him. With a righteous expression, he said, "I did not think that there would be someone with such evil intentions lurking around me. College Chief Xing, I am willing to apologize to you. It is my fault for not teaching him well. That is why Feng Tian's disciple had such an accident in the Starry School." This was pushing the blame away, completely shirking his responsibility. But the people present were not fools. This matter was simply too strange and bizarre. Students disappeared from time to time in the Starry School. Now, the missing students were all found in the secret room under Di Yudao's study. The person who did such a crazy thing was Di Yudao's confidant. Now, without saying anything, he was silenced by Di Yudao. Xingdanqing sneered, "Dean Zhai, do you think we are fools? Do you think you can deceive us? I can tell you this, if you don't give me an explanation for what happened today, our Phoenix Sky Academy will definitely not let this matter rest." Not to mention Xingdanqing, even the college chiefs of the various faculties were livid. "Chief Zhai, it's because we trust you that we recommended you to be the college chief of the Starry School. But now, you actually dared to do such a thing to innocent students. We definitely won't let this matter rest." Meng Baichuan said coldly, "Dean Zhai said that everything here has nothing to do with you. Fine, let's investigate this thoroughly. We must get to the bottom of this. During this period of time, I would like to ask Dean Zhai to temporarily suspend his position as dean." Di Yudao gritted his teeth so hard that his teeth made cracking sounds. He wanted to tear the people of the Alcade branch and Shu Iluan into pieces. At that moment, he was absolutely sure that Shu Iluan and the Alcade branch were in cahoots. They had set up this trap to consign themselves to eternal damnation. However, would he, Di Yudao, admit defeat so easily? Chapter 1663. It's the demonic cultivator who snuck into the school. He wanted to collude with the people from the Alcade branch to frame me and even harm all the students and teachers in the school. If you don't believe me, follow me. Di Yudao quickly brought Xingdanqing and the others to the secret room. Feeling the remaining demonic aura in the room, Xingdanqing and the others' expressions changed. It's indeed the aura of a demonic cultivator. On the cultivation continent, there weren't many demonic cultivators. They usually hid in remote corners. These demonic cultivators were usually unreasonable and cruel. They didn't care about worldly ethics and did whatever they wanted. However, demonic cultivators usually cultivated in a different way. Their early stages were much smoother than normal cultivators. As a result, they were usually very powerful. As long as a demonic cultivator appeared, it could bring about great suffering and countless deaths. Therefore, in the eyes of ordinary people and orthodox cultivators, evil demonic cultivators should be killed. As long as they met one, They must gather all their peers and eliminate them. Di Yudao said righteously, I felt the aura of a demonic cultivator and rushed back. I didn't expect him to escape. But I've seen his true face. Who is it? Di Yudao put his hands behind his back and said coldly, It's Shu Iluan, the vice college chief of the Starry School. He has been hiding his demonic cultivator identity and lurked in the Starry School to harm innocent students and cultivate the demonic palace for him. He Shan must be his lackey. Di Yudao's words naturally had many loopholes. However, Xing Danqing and the others had already been stunned by the news of Shu Iluan being a demonic cultivator. They were completely confused. Vice College Chief Shu is really a demonic cultivator? Is there a mistake somewhere? Where is the demonic cultivator now? Di Yudao calmed down and glanced at Yun Ruohan and the others coldly. I can feel that the demonic cultivator stole the treasure of the Starry School and went to the Alcade branch. Hearing this, Yun Ruohan and the others frowned. It seemed that Di Yudao was going to make a false accusation. Only Chu Moli was deep in thought, his lips curling into a faint smile. Thinking about what his junior sister had told him about the abnormal situation of the Yaoguang branch, he felt that the following show would be very exciting. Thus, when Di Yudao proposed to search the Alcade branch, Chu Moli stopped the fellow disciples who wanted to object, and said slowly, If you want to search the Alcade branch, that's not a problem. However, it's not the first time that the Alcade branch has been framed. This time, if some people say that the wind is the rain and want to use us as scapegoats. Before he could finish, Meng Baichuan patted his chest and said, Don't worry. Do you think we don't know whether the people of the Alcade branch are innocent or not? The disappearance of the students had already happened before you guys arrived. This matter definitely has nothing to do with you guys. Xing Danqing took the opportunity to say, If there's really someone in the Starry School who can't tolerate you, you're welcome to join the Fengtian School. Chu Moli glanced at Di Yudao with a faint smile. Also, this is a separate matter. I heard that Shu Iluan, the vice college chief, only came to the Starry School a few years ago. Even if he's really a demonic cultivator, I've looked through the school's history and found that the disappearance of students from the outer school has been happening for more than 10 years. Could it be that Shu Iluan has the ability to control everything in the Starry School from thousands of miles away? Chapter 1664. Furthermore, the ruthlessness and darkness in his heart were slowly ignited by the demonic flames. Bang! Shu Iluan slapped Di Yudao with his palm and sent him flying. He fell to the ground, but his eyes were not on Shu Iluan, but the light behind him that was getting brighter and brighter. What are you waiting for? Di Yudao roared. Shu Iluan is a demonic cultivator. He's the one who captured innocent students to conduct inhumane experiments. Behind him is the demon-gathering matrix. If he succeeds, the entire Starry School will be finished. Quick, kill him. Destroy the matrix behind him. Shu Iluan sneered. Di Yudao, you should know better than anyone what matrix is behind me. Di Yudao panicked even more when he heard him. He shouted again, Have you forgotten that everyone has a responsibility to kill demonic cultivators? Hearing Di Yudao's words and Shu Iluan's real identity as a demonic cultivator, Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan all attacked Shu Iluan despite their doubts. Just as Di Yudao said, killing demonic cultivators was the responsibility of all orthodox cultivators. With the addition of Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan, 2 nascent soul cultivators, and the other school deans who were all at the peak of the Golden Core realm, Shu Iluan was in a difficult situation. All of a sudden, Shu Iluan found himself in a difficult situation, and was no longer as relaxed as when he was dealing with Di Yudao. Seeing that Shu Iluan was being held up by Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan, Di Yudao's eyes flashed with malice. He quickly rushed towards the matrix on the cliff. Seeing the light on the matrix and the vague figure behind it, Di Yudao's expression was complicated. A complicated look flashed across Di Yudao's face. He suddenly raised his sword and slashed at the glyph array. Di Yudao would rather destroy what belonged to him than let others have it. Seeing that the falling sword was about to destroy the matrix, a figure suddenly appeared and blocked in front of the matrix. Puff! Shu Iluan spat out a mouthful of blood. His back was also slashed by Di Yudao's sword, leaving a deep wound. Everyone was stunned by the scene, especially Meng Baichuan and Xing Danqing. Although Xu Yiluan was exhausted and battered by the dozen of them surrounding him, it was impossible for them to take him down in a short period of time. He was secretly shocked by the strength of the demonic cultivators. All of a sudden, Xu Yiluan seemed to have discovered something, and his expression changed greatly. It completely disregarded their attacks and turned around to devour the creatures behind it. He threw himself at the cliff. Xing Danqing's palm landed on Xu Yiluan's back. This palm strike contained 100% of his strength. It could be imagined how severe Xu Yiluan's injuries would be if he were to receive this palm strike. But that was not enough. He suffered such heavy injuries, yet he didn't even try to protect himself. Instead, he used all of his spiritual energy and demonic qi to cover the stone wall. Di Yudao's sword had also forcefully struck him. Blood stained the man's clothes. His neatly combed long hair hung loosely, contrasting with his pale, blood-stained face. The demonic charm and mysteriousness that belonged to a demonic cultivator had disappeared, replaced by a clean, clear, delicate, and pitiful frailty. When Meng Baichuan saw this face, his mind suddenly flashed. Yi Lungsu. You are Yi Lungsu. Xu Yiluan slowly raised his head and met his eyes. A weak smile appeared on his lips. Meng Baichuan was even more incredulous. You, how did you become a demonic cultivator? How can you be worthy of Yarou Guang's nurturing? Chapter 1665. Furthermore, the ruthlessness and darkness in his heart were slowly ignited by the demonic flames. Bang! Xu Yiluan slapped Di Yudao with his palm and sent him flying. He fell to the ground, not looking at Xu Yiluan, but at the light behind him that was getting brighter and brighter. What are you waiting for? Di Yudao roared. Xu Yiluan is a demonic cultivator. He's the one who captured innocent students for inhumane experiments. Behind him is the demon-gathering matrix. If he succeeds, the entire Starry School will be finished. Quick, kill him. Destroy the matrix behind him. Xu Yiluan sneered. Di Yudao, you should know better than anyone what matrix is behind me. Di Yudao panicked even more after hearing his words. He shouted again, have you forgotten that it's everyone's responsibility to kill a demonic cultivator? Hearing Di Yudao's words and Xu Yiluan's real identity as a demonic cultivator, Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan all attacked Xu Yiluan despite their doubts. Just like what Di Yudao said, killing a demonic cultivator was the responsibility of all orthodox cultivators. With the addition of Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan, two nascent soul cultivators, and the other school chiefs who were all at the peak of the Golden Elixir realm, Xu Yiluan was in a difficult situation. All of a sudden, Xu Yiluan found himself in a difficult situation, and was no longer as relaxed as when he was dealing with Di Yudao. Seeing that Xu Yiluan was being held up by Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan, a malicious light flashed in Di Yudao's eyes. He quickly rushed towards the matrix on the cliff. Seeing the light on the matrix and the vague figure behind it, Di Yudao's expression was complicated. A complicated look flashed across Di Yudao's face. He suddenly raised his sword and slashed at the glyph array. He would rather destroy what belonged to him than let others have it. Seeing that the falling sword was about to destroy the matrix, a figure suddenly appeared and blocked in front of the matrix. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out of Xu Yiluan's mouth. His back had also been slashed by Di Yudao's sword. Everyone was stunned by the scene, especially Meng Baichuan and Xing Danqing. Although Xu Yiluan was exhausted and battered by the dozen of them surrounding him, it was impossible for them to take him down in a short period of time. He was secretly shocked by the strength of the demonic cultivators. All of a sudden, Xu Yiluan seemed to have discovered something, and his expression changed dramatically. Completely ignoring their attacks, he turned around and pounced towards the cliff behind him. Xing Danqing's palm landed on Xu Yiluan's back. This palm strike contained 100% of his strength. It could be imagined how severe Xu Yiluan's injuries would be if he were to receive this palm strike. But that was not enough. He suffered such heavy injuries, yet he didn't even try to protect himself. Instead, he used all of his spiritual energy and demonic chi to cover the stone wall. Di Yudao's sword had also forcefully struck him. Blood stained the man's clothes. His neatly combed long hair hung loosely, contrasting with his pale, blood-stained face. The demonic charm and mysteriousness that belonged to a demonic cultivator had disappeared, replaced by a clean, clear, delicate, and pitiful frailty. When Meng Baichuan saw this face, his mind suddenly flashed. Yi Lungsu. You are Yi Lungsu. Shu Yiluan slowly raised his head and met his eyes. A weak smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Meng Baichuan was even more incredulous. You, how did you become a demonic cultivator? Are you worthy of Yao Guang's nurturing back then? Chapter 1666. Shu Yiluan sneered. I should be the one asking you that. How can you face Yao Guang if you're with the culprit who harmed her? Meng Baichuan, what harm Yao Guang? Didn't junior sister Yao Guang travel the world? Without waiting for Shu Yiluan to speak, Di Yudao had already leapt into the air and a powerful attack landed on Shu Yiluan. Meng Baichuan, are you stupid? How can you believe the words of a demonic cultivator? Shu Yiluan, I don't care who you are. But you're a demonic cultivator, and everyone has the right to kill you. Now that you're a nun in my starry school, I will not allow you to live. The boundless spirit energy attack, mixed with the powerful lightning energy, ruthlessly landed on Shu Yiluan's body. Shu Yiluan spat out another mouthful of blood and slowly knelt down. The demonic chi on his body had almost completely dissipated. Di Yudao's sword took the opportunity to slash at the matrix behind him. However, in the next moment, Shu Yiluan, who should not have been able to get up, suddenly stood up and stood firmly in front of the matrix on the stone wall. Around his body, a pure black devil chi was released, forming a barrier. However, it was not protecting him, but the huge matrix on the stone wall. Di Yudao's sword slashed at him again and again. Every slash left a bone-deep wound on his body. If not for his demonic chi's self-healing and defensive abilities, his limbs and head would have been chopped off by Di Yudao. With every second that the demonic chi lingered, his face became paler and paler. His already thin body swayed as if he would collapse at any moment. However, even though he was covered in wounds, even though he was on the verge of death, he still stood firmly in front of the stone wall, not allowing Di Yudao's sword to harm the matrix at all. Just a little more time, and the formation would be completed. Yao Guang, wait for me, just a little bit more. Soon, I'll be done soon. At the side, Yun Ruohan and the others could not help but avert their eyes when they saw this. His demonic body, Chu Moli sighed. Once his demonic body burns out, he'll die. Do you really believe that the formation behind him is a demon gathering formation? It was not easy to set up the demon gathering formation, but if the person who set up the formation died, what use would it be, no matter how much demonic energy was gathered? All righteous cultivators were taught that devil cultivators were heinous and unforgivable. However, the people of the Xiao Yarrow sect had always been rebellious. They were free and unrestrained, but they didn't know the difference between good and evil. They only knew good and evil. In their eyes, Di Yudao was definitely not a good person. Compared to Shu Yiluan, who was a devil cultivator, they felt that Di Yudao was more deranged, a devil that was worse than beasts. Yun Ruohan sighed softly. I don't think it's a demon gathering array either, but they won't believe me, and they can't afford to take the risk. In the eyes of righteous Dao cultivators, the majority of devil cultivators were unreasonable, cruel, and tyrannical. What if this really was a demon gathering array? What if Shu Yiluan was really harming the Starry School students? No one could afford to pay the price of letting a fiendish cultivator go. Therefore, even if Meng Baichuan had doubts about Shu Yiluan's identity, even if the people of the Xiao Yarrow sect could not bear to see it, they could only watch. However, Xiao Bao suddenly frowned and said in a cold voice, "There's the sound of a guqin." Guqin? Everyone was stunned. Is little junior sister back? It's not mother. Xiao Bao shook his head without hesitation. But it's as nice as mother's. Chapter 1667. He paused and said with some confusion, "That zither sound seems to be saying something, but little Bao doesn't understand." The people of the Xiaoyaro school looked at each other. "Did you hear the zither music that Xiaobao was talking about?" "No. I didn't hear it either." "Xiaobao, did you hear it wrong?" Xiaobao tilted his little head and frowned, but didn't say anything. He really did hear the sound of the zither, and it became more and more urgent, more and more panicked, as if he was in a hurry to tell something, to pray for something. However, Xiaobao could not understand the meaning of the zither music, so he was helpless. It would be great if Nyang Qin was here. Mother must be able to understand what this zither music is saying. Shu Yiluan's body grew weaker and weaker. Even his figure became more and more blurry, as if he would collapse at any moment. However, the talisman formation behind him was firmly protected by him and was not damaged in the slightest. A trace of malevolence and impatience flashed across Di Yudao's face, and he gave a look to his confidant behind him. Shu Yiluan was preparing to receive Di Yudao's next wave of attacks. Suddenly, he felt two figures rushing towards him. Since the start of the battle, no one had dared to approach Shu Yiluan. This was because, to ordinary cultivators, the devilish aura on his body was like a scorching flame, or as cold as 10,000-year-old profound ice. If an ordinary cultivator were to come into contact with even a little bit of it, they would suffer unbearable pain and would need at least a year and a half to dissolve it. However, these two golden core cultivators didn't seem to be afraid of the demonic qi on his body at all and directly threw him to the ground. Shu Yiluan's body was already riddled with holes and was extremely weak. He was only holding on by relying on demonic energy. Let alone two golden core cultivators, even a normal body-tempering cultivator would be able to send him flying with a single kick. He raised his head in horror and saw that the two golden core cultivators were smiling slyly at him. They weren't afraid of the devil qi at all? What kind of cultivator wouldn't be afraid of devil qi? Naturally, it could only be someone with the same devilish aura. However, at this moment, Shu Yiluan had no time to think about why Di Yudao would have someone with demonic qi around him. He abruptly turned his head towards the direction of the stone wall. At this time, Di Yudao had already raised the sword in his hand and slashed at the stone wall. With a rumbling sound, the rock wall was smashed into pieces. After the dust settled, the light that was originally lit up was slowly extinguished. Shu Yiluan stared at this scene. He felt that the little bit of hope in his heart, the little bit of light, was about to be extinguished. Yao Guang! That heart-wrenching roar was like the cry of a cuckoo gazing at the emperor, and it was extremely painful. Two streams of bloody tears flowed down from Shu Yiluan's eyes. Ignoring his wounded and powerless body, he desperately crawled towards the shattered stone wall and the disappearing glyph formation. Yao Guang! Alcade! Alcade! Their cries were filled with grief and heartache. Even the onlookers were wary and suspicious of the demonic cultivators. When she saw this scene, she couldn't bear it and tears filled her eyes. Meng Baichuan and the other branch deans were even more shocked. Why is he summoning Yao Guang? Didn't junior sister Yaro Guang go to roam the world? Di Yudao looked at the extinguished light on the stone wall and let out a long sigh of relief. Then he stared at the stone wall, as if looking through it to see something. His eyes were filled with resentment, unwillingness, and jealousy. Alcade! Alcade! You forced me to do all of this. Chapter 1668. I clearly love you so much, why do you have to choose someone else? If you had accepted me, you would be the headmaster's wife right now. Glory, splendor, wealth, power, and status, what wouldn't you have? Now that you've ended up in this state, it's all your own doing. Suddenly, Di Yudao abruptly turns to look at Shu Yiluan, his eyes bursting with intense hatred. It's this person. It's this man who took away Yaro Guang's heart, turning himself into a laughingstock for everyone. Di Yudao originally thought that this person had died decades ago. He didn't expect that he would actually struggle on while at death's door and survive. Today, he will settle old and new enmity together. He must dismember his body into 10,000 pieces. Di Yudao suddenly raises the sword in his hand and ruthlessly slashes at Shu Yiluan's feet. At this time, The demonic energy around Shu Iluan's body has already dispersed. With this slash, he will no longer be able to resist Di Yudao's attack. He will completely become a fish on the chopping block. However, at this time, a melodious sound of a zither suddenly resounds in the air. Almost at the same time, hundreds of zither sounds transform into swords, shooting straight towards Di Yudao. Di Yudao is caught off guard, and the sound blade actually cuts a hole in his clothes. He repeatedly retreats, barely dodging the attack. "Who is it?" Di Yudao shouts. "In the end, who hurt me? Get out here." In the dark night, a clear and melodious female voice leisurely rings out, "My apologies, Headmaster Zhai. My hand accidentally hurt you, I'm really sorry." Under the moonlight, a young girl dressed in blue slowly walks over, holding a black zither in her hand. Her jet-black hair gently sways with the night wind, from time to time covering half of her flawless white jade face, and from time to time revealing that unparalleled beauty. Everyone present can't help but stare blankly, their faces revealing amazement and infatuation. The young girl comes treading on the moonlight, beautiful and elegant, like the most beautiful fairy, and also like an ethereal banished immortal. With just a glance, it can even take away people's breath and souls. "Nyangqin." A crisp, childish voice breaks the silence. The small figure rushes into Muyan's embrace like a small cannonball, tightly hugging her thigh. On her raised little head, a pair of big, clear, sapphire-like eyes stared unblinkingly at Muyan. Her eyes were filled with longing and attachment. Although he had only been separated from his mother for a few hours, he still missed her very much. Mu Yang strokes Xiaobao's head, then crouches down to kiss her son's soft little face. "Did my baby miss Nyangqin?" Xiaobao blushed and buried his head in her arms. "Yes," he said in a low voice. Xiaobao missed his mother so much. Xiaobao didn't want to leave his mother for even a moment. "Jun Muyan." Di Yudao suddenly bellows, "What are you doing? Do you want to disobey your master and protect a demonic cultivator?" Mu Yang releases Xiaobao and signals him to return to Yun Ruohan's side. Unfortunately, Xiaobao was unwilling to leave his mother. He grabbed her sleeve and refused to let go, vowing to be a little tail. Mu Yang smiled and rubbed her son's head. She let him be and slowly walked to Shu Iluan's side and sat down cross-legged. "I was entrusted by someone to save someone." Mu Yang looked at Shu Iluan, who was riddled with scars. She suddenly raised her hand and took out a talisman, pressing it on his body. This talisman is called Elemental Talisman. As the name suggests, it can gather the vitality needed by living beings. What cultivators need is spiritual energy. What demonic cultivators need is devil energy. Chapter 1669. There's also that demonic thing that's neither human nor ghost, it needs demonic energy. In short, the Elemental Gathering Talisman can gather all kinds of elemental energy between heaven and earth and turn it into living beings' use. As the Elemental Gathering Talisman burns on Shu Iluan's body, his body that was on the verge of collapse slowly solidifies. Even the several fatal wounds on his body gradually begin to heal. But it's only a moment before the Elemental Gathering Talisman burns out. Shu Iluan's injuries have only recovered by less than 10%, barely enough to preserve his life. Mu Yang can't help but shake her head. This Elemental Gathering Talisman is really not easy to draw. It's not easy to draw one, but it can only display this little effect. However, everyone at the scene was stunned. What kind of talisman is this? It can actually gather elemental energy? Logically speaking, cultivators only have spiritual power. How can they draw talismans that can gather demonic energy? Di Yudao suddenly comes to his senses and angrily shouts, "Jun Mu Yang, you're also a demonic cultivator. Could it be that you're Shu Iluan's accomplice?" As soon as these words come out, the people of the Xiao Yarrow school who were watching with folded arms can't take it anymore. "Old fart, who are you saying is a demonic cultivator's accomplice?" Lung Yumor holds her long saber horizontally and stands beside Mu Yang. She bluntly curses, "First clearly tell us how many innocent lives have been harmed in the secret room under your study." Luo Yu, I think that some people, even if they don't look like demonic cultivators, are actually much more ruthless than real demonic cultivators. Di Yudao angrily points at Shu Iluan, who was saved by Mu Yang. If she isn't a demonic cultivator, how could she gather demonic energy for Shu Iluan? Chu Moli unhurriedly says, "Then why don't Dinjai tell us first? Why aren't your two trusted subordinates afraid of demonic energy? I've heard that only people who possess devilish qi are able to resist devilish qi." Chu Moli's words make everyone's gazes uniformly look at Di Yudao's two trusted subordinates. Everyone's eyes reveal a suspicious light. Meng Baichuan and Xing Danqing are two nascent soul cultivators. They have the ability to resist demonic energy. But how can two trifling third-rank gold core cultivators have the ability to resist Shu Iluan's demonic energy without suffering a backlash? The two golden core cultivators panicked and looked at Di Yudao for help. Di Yudao's heart thumps, and he roars loudly, "Don't try to change the subject, you're shielding that witch Jun Muyan." Bah! Luo Yu spat, "Di Yudao, you're so shameless. You don't need to explain when your own people have problems, and you still have the cheek to say that we are changing the topic. Do you really think everyone here is an idiot?" Chu Moli also said unhurriedly, "As for why my little junior sister is able to gather demonic energy, that's because my little junior sister's true identity is the Azure Cloud sect's master, Yiliang Chen. Since ancient times, have you ever seen a talisman master become the champion of the flourishing Heavenly Light Finals? Since my junior sister has such a title, she naturally has some extraordinary means. What's so strange about that?" Meng Baichuan and the others sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard that Mu Yang's true identity was the Lord of Clear Sky, Yiliang Chen. Although he already had his suspicions. However, when he heard Chu Moli reveal his identity, he was still shocked and excited. When he saw the Azure Cloud Command medallion that Mu Yang took out, he had no doubts at all. Di Yudao still wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Xing Danqing mockingly, "Din Zhai, have you gone senile? Don't you know that as long as a devil cultivator or someone related to a devil cultivator enters the soaring sky, Linglong, and Nirvana pagodas, they would be directly killed by the artifact spirits of the pagodas?" Chapter 1670. For Jun Muyan to be able to become the Lord of Clear Sky, that means that her identity is absolutely not suspicious. Di Yudao's complexion alternates between green and white. He looks at Mu Yang with a gaze that wishes to tear her body into 10,000 pieces. It was that woman again. It was her again. Why did this slut have to ruin his plans every single time? Jun Muyan, since you have nothing to do with this devil cultivator Shu Iluan, why don't you get out of the way and let me kill him? Mu Yang, however, shakes her head, "That won't do. I was entrusted by someone to save Vice Dean Shu's life." Meng Baichuan asked curiously, "Who did it?" Muyan's fingers are placed on the Tianmo Qin, gently moving. However, the music she played was very strange. It had no beginning or end, and it did not seem like she was playing a complete piece of music. Instead, it seemed like she was playing with someone else, so it was intermittent. Di Yudao was furious. "If you don't say it, it means that you are making excuses." However, the next moment, the girl's pleasant voice, accompanied by the melodious music, interrupted him. "The person who asked me to save him is the dean of the Alcade branch, Ning Yaoguang." As soon as these words came out, the scene instantly quietened down. Di Yudao's angry face suddenly froze. His expression seemed to be forcibly distorted before it froze on his face. Shu Iluan's eyes were filled with despair, hatred, and darkness. After hearing these words, he abruptly raises his head and looks at Muyan in disbelief. What did you just say?" Even Meng Baichuan and the deans couldn't help but exclaim, "Junior Sister Yaoguang? Did Junior Sister Yaoguang really entrust this to you? Where was she? You really saw her?" Mu Yang pursed her lips, revealing a faint smile, but didn't say anything. Meng Baichuan glanced at Shu Iluan and suddenly sighed. Junior Sister Yaoguang doted on this student the most back then. Now that he has fallen into the demonic path, it's possible that she wants to save him. Maybe there's a reason why he turned into a demon. Why don't we keep him alive and listen to what he has to say? After all, his someone junior sister Yarrow Guang wants to save. Impossible. Di Yudao suddenly let out a hysterical roar. How could Ning Yaoguang entrust you? It's impossible for her to entrust you. She was clearly. Di Yudao's voice suddenly stopped, and his face was filled with terror. Obviously by what? Mu Yang said with a beaming smile, it was clearly sealed by you behind this cliff, and it was impossible for me to encounter it outside, and it was impossible for me to entrust it to you, right? Di Yudao suddenly widened his eyes, looking at her as if he had seen a ghost. How did you know? Almost slipped out of his mouth. Meng Baichuan, what? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by being sealed behind this cliff? Mu Yang sneered, otherwise, why do you think Vice Principal Shu would risk his life to protect this talisman array? That was because this talisman formation was not a demon gathering formation, but a reincarnation formation used to break the seal and allow Ning Yaoguang to see the light of day again and regain her freedom. Unfortunately, the reincarnation formation was destroyed by you at the most crucial moment. No. This is impossible. Meng Baichuan shook his head repeatedly. Yaoguang is our junior sister. Senior brother Zhai doted on her the most back then. How? How is this possible? Mu Yang, people's hearts are fickle. Jealousy and greed can make people change beyond recognition. Hehe, Dean Meng, look at senior brother Zhai beside you. Does he still have the strength of character and appearance from back then? Chapter 1671. Meng Baichuan looks at Di Yudao in a daze, only to see that his brows are sharp and his eyes are filled with coldness and tyranny, as well as a trace of imperceptible panic. His heart thumps, and his eyes slowly widen. Di Yudao shouts angrily, Jun Muyan, don't try to mislead people with your lies. What reincarnation array, it's just your one-sided words. Shu Iluan is now a cruel and tyrannical devil cultivator, and you actually said that he arranged a reincarnation array and not a giant demon array. Ha ha ha, do you really think that everyone here will be bewitched by your absurd words? Whether it's absurd or not, wouldn't it be clear if we witness it with our own eyes? Muyan smiles, takes out an array disc, and throws it at the broken mountain wall. As soon as the array disc touches the mountain wall, it immediately attaches to it. A dazzling light suddenly spreads out in all directions with the array disc as the center. In the blink of an eye, the falling rubble seems to be attracted by something, and one after another, they fly up and reform the mountain wall. And the light of the array, which was originally extinguished, shines once again. This is reverse cultivation ancient. This is the reverse cultivation ancient array disc. Only one in the entire Shozhen continent can repair all talisman arrays below rank 9. I heard that this reverse cultivation ancient array disc has always been in young Master Yun Xiao's hands. How could Jun Muyan have it? The people of the Xiaoyaro sect are also shocked when they see the array disc that Muyan threw out. They didn't expect that little martial uncle would give such a precious, reverse cultivation ancient, array disc to junior sister. Ah, little martial uncle really dotes on junior sister, the only successor of the way of the sword. Only Chu Moli secretly chuckles, secretly despising his fellow apprentices and sisters, this group of ignorant mortals. Little martial uncle's kindness to little martial sister was not something that could be summed up by the words master to disciple and successor. Shu Iluan suddenly turns his head to look at the reincarnation array that has lit up again, and tears instantly fill his eyes. Yaoguang, Yaoguang. He looks at Muyan and says in a trembling voice, You, who are you? Why are you helping me? Muyan, I said, I was entrusted by someone. How is this possible? Yaoguang wouldn't entrust you. Shu Iluan glares at Muyan. Before Mu Yang could answer, Xiao Bao said coldly, Can't you hear the sound of the zither? What's that sound? Xiao Bao pulled a long face, his expression one of disdain. He's been playing for so long, and is even echoing with mother. Can't you guys hear him? Mu Yang glanced at the dodging behind her, and slowly said, As early as when I first entered the Yaoguang branch, I often heard intermittent zither sounds, but I couldn't find out who was playing the zither. Thus, I also played the zither in response. Slowly, we became close friends through the sound of the zither. Although I can't completely understand what she wants to express, I can feel her resentment, pain, and despair. However, amidst such despair and resentment, he still maintained a trace of carefreeness and arrogance, as well as a pure heart that could not be destroyed no matter what. It is precisely this kind of magnanimous and free zither music that makes Muyin unconsciously regard this person as a confidant. She wants to understand more about her and help her. Especially after the end of the Tri-Academy tournament, he felt Diu Dao's fear of the Alcade institution's secret. Thus, Muyin secretly investigated some information, and then found out. It turns out that a few decades ago, Diu Dao, Meng Baichuan, and Ning Yaoguang entered the Starry School together. Chapter 1672. At that time, the Alcade branch was the weakest branch in the entire Starry School. Of course, the number of people in the Alcade branch was not as terrifying as it was now. There were only 7. But there were less than 100 people, and more than 90% of them were support musicians without any combat ability. Ning Yaoguang, Diu Dao, and Meng Baichuan came from the same sect. But only Ning Yaoguang insisted on entering the Alcade branch, which mainly consisted of musicians. Diu Dao and Meng Baichuan loved this little junior sister very much. Seeing that she had to waste her time in the trashiest Alcade branch, they were heartbroken. Almost everyone thought that Ning Yaoguang, the new star who had performed well in the entrance examination, would gradually lose all her brilliance in the dilapidated Alcade branch. However, the Tri-Academy tournament held the following year made everyone's jaws drop. In that tournament, the Alcade branch could only choose 10 people to participate. 2 of them had no combat ability at all. Usually, they just showed up on the stage and left in a hurry. However, with the help of Ning Yaoguang's almost nature-defying erosion, this team of 8 advanced triumphantly. At that time, Ning Yaoguang was like Jun Muyin. She could both support and fight. In the semifinals and finals, they did not crush their opponents like the Xiaoyaro school, but they still managed to win by working together. Back then, the name of Paulari's Zither Master, Ning Yaoguang, was known by everyone in the 3 academies. The current chiefs of the 3 schools, Li Wenyuan, Xing Danqing, and Diu Dao, were all defeated by Ning Yaoguang in the Tri-School tournament. After that, Ning Yaoguang, Diu Dao, and Meng Baichuan all graduated from the Starry School and returned to their sects, traveling everywhere. A few years later, they became teachers in the Starry School. Because Diu Dao was appreciated by the college chief at that time, he was quickly promoted to vice college chief. He promoted Ning Yaoguang and Meng Baichuan to Alcade branch and Tianshu branch respectively. Everything seemed to be harmonious and the Starry School became stronger and stronger. Especially the Alcade branch. Under Ning Yaoguang's management, more and more powerful musicians appeared. However, a few years later, Ning Yaoguang suddenly disappeared one day. She only left a letter saying that she was going on a long journey. No one knew why she had left or where she had gone, but from then on, no one had seen any trace of her. Combining the emotions she felt from the sound of the zither, the information she had found, Shu Yiluan's narration and Diu Dao's reaction, Mu Yang could guess what had happened back then. Shu Yiluan stared at her blankly. Why, you can really hear Yaoguang's music? How is she now? Is she doing well? Just as Mu Yang was about to answer, a flying boat suddenly sped down from the front. Suddenly, dozens of golden core cultivators jumped down from the flying ship. They surround Mu Yang and Shu Yiluan. Seeing the attire of these golden core stage cultivators, Meng Baichuan's expression changed. You're the subordinates of the Tian clan? How did you get into Starry School? The Tian family was also a great aristocratic family in the azure blue world. Its strength was second only to the Nailan family, the Lu family, and the Murong family. It was even slightly more prominent than the Duan family and the Feng family. However, even if it was the Tian clan, they should not have been able to send people into the Starry School so easily. Chapter 1673. One must know that there was a barrier around the 3 academies. Without an identity token, one could not enter. Diu Dao said coldly, I asked them to come. The leader of the Tian family was a tall man with a long face. His eyes were like a hawk's, but they were not sharp, but wretched and cunning. Exterminating demons and protecting the Tao is the duty of every cultivator. My Tian family has always been on good terms with Starry School. It is our duty to kill the demonic cultivators. After speaking, he turned to Mu Yang and Shu Iluan. When he saw Mu Yang's face, he gasped. His eyes were filled with obsession and greed. But soon, he calmed down. Chief Jai, the demonic cultivators you mentioned are these two? That's right. Di Yudao's gaze swept across Mu Yang and Shu Iluan. Shu Iluan is a demonic cultivator. Jun Mu Yang and the rest of the Alcade branch colluded with demonic cultivators and wanted to do evil. They deserve to die. The horse-faced cultivator immediately said, "Haha, don't worry, Chief Jai. We will bring them back to the Tian family immediately to interrogate them. We will make them confess all the plans of the demonic cultivators." After speaking, he waved his hand and the group immediately attacked Mu Yang. Meng Baichuan said angrily, "Di Yudao, what are you doing?" "What am I doing? Killing the demons, of course." The horse-faced cultivator laughed coldly. "Chief Xing, Chief Meng, are you trying to protect the demonic cultivators?" Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan, who wanted to stop them, were immediately stopped. Di Yudao said to the horse-faced cultivator, "Friend Tian, don't underestimate these people, especially Jun Mu Yang. She is the leader of the Green Cloud sect, Yi Liang Chen. The rest of the Alcade branch are not simple either. Why don't you and I?" Before he could finish speaking, the horse-faced cultivator had already waved his hand carelessly and said in disdain, "Just a group of little bastards in the stage of fasting. Do you think they can turn the sky upside down under my hands?" The horse-faced cultivator was already in the 9th level of the Golden Core. He was only slightly weaker than the Starry School's branch deans. Most of the teachers were not his match. His subordinates were all Jindan Shouja. More than 10 Jindan stage experts against 7 young men and women in the Anidia stage, plus a dying fiendish cultivator. No matter how one looked at it, it was a crushing defeat. The horse-faced cultivator laughed and said, "Dean Zhai, just watch from the side. If we can't take down these little bastards in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, I'll cut off my head and let them use it as a chamber pot. Ha ha ha, that's right. They're just a bunch of fasting stage trash. We only need to use 50% of our power to make them cry for their parents. If we lose, we won't be able to make a living anymore." However, half an hour later, the ground was littered with groaning muscular men, each of them moaning and howling in pain. Lung Yumor stepped on the horse-faced cultivator's head with one foot and revealed a carefree smile. "You just said that if you can't take us down in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, you'll take off your head and let us use it as a chamber pot?" The horse-faced cultivator's eyes were filled with shock. He stared at Mu Yang and the little boy beside her, unable to believe what had happened in the past half an hour. He was a 9th-level Golden Core cultivator. He had rushed towards Jun Mu Yang immediately, thinking that he could take her down easily. He was even thinking about how he would humiliate such a beauty in the name of interrogating her before handing her over to his master. Chapter 1674. But he didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, the spiritual power within his body would be disturbed by the zither music, and his movements would become sluggish. Then, without waiting for him to react, he was ruthlessly beaten up by the 5-year-old child next to Jun Muyan. And then everything was like a runaway wild horse, going in a completely unimaginable direction. The horse-faced cultivator was beaten black and blue, unable to get up, and his subordinates were lying around him in disorder. He still didn't understand how things turned out like this. Weren't they Jindan stage cultivators? Weren't their opponents a group of fasting stage boys and girls? Why? Why did they fail? And why did they lose so miserably? Even Meng Baichuan and Xing Danqing are stunned. God, what a terrible group of students are they? Even the Yaoguang branch that Ning Yaoguang led back then couldn't be this powerful. 7 fasting stage cultivators were able to firmly suppress more than 10 Jindan stage cultivators. Especially the domains that Yun Ruohan and Lung Yumor displayed, they were several times more tyrannical than when they faced the fantasy team in the 3 Academies tournament. In the 3 Academies tournament, The people of the Xiao Yarrow team simply didn't display their full strength. What's even more shocking is not the people of the Xiao Yarrow school, but the little boy next to Jun Muyan. A 5-year-old child facing the horse-faced cultivator, a 9th stage Jindan stage expert. He actually rubbed him against the ground the whole time. Even with the help of Jun Muyan's zither music, this is still too outrageous. And the sword in his hand makes Di Yudao even more shocked and aghast. Did he see it wrong? Why does this sword look so much like the Bixia sword that Master asked him to guard? No, no, no. This is absolutely impossible. How could the Bixia sword that even such a powerful master couldn't tame appear in the hands of a 5-year-old child? He must have seen it wrong. Yes, he must have seen it wrong. Di Yudao awoke from his shock, and his eyes once again focus on the mountain wall. Reincarnation array to devour it would take about half an hour to complete. Just now, Shu Iluan was about to complete the array, so he had to recalculate the half an hour. But now, the completion of the reincarnation array is getting closer and closer. If he really let Ning Yaoguang come out, everything would be over. Di Yudao's pupils suddenly contracted. He suddenly leaped up and fiercely slashed at the ancient cultivation array on the mountain wall. As long as the ancient cultivation array was broken, the array would naturally collapse again. What Di Yudao wants is to catch everyone off guard while their attention is focused on Jun Muyan and the horse-faced cultivator. However, he did not know that there was a person in the crowd whose attention had never left the reincarnation formation. Almost at the same time as Di Yudao of Di Yudao, action, Shu Shu of Shu of Shu of Shu of, the reverse ancient cultivation disc and the reincarnation formation behind him were still in good condition. He had protected them with his life. Di of. Just as his voice falls, an attack that carries 100% of his cultivation fiercely falls towards the top of Shu Iluan's head. Muyan abruptly turns around, wanting to save him, but it's already too late. Chapter 1675. Almost at the same time, the rune on the rune suddenly shone brightly. The already dazzling light suddenly became as bright as fireworks. Rumble. The huge mountain wall collapsed, and dust flew everywhere. The surging sound of the zither poured out from the collapsed mountain wall. There were raging waves and raging flames of anger, but there was also a trace of pain and gentleness. Bang! A powerful force collided with Di Yudao's attack in the air. The airwaves rolled, and the earth shook. Di Yudao's whole body seemed to be slapped by a huge palm. He landed heavily on the ground and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Shu Iluan only felt that his body and soul were collapsing in waves of tearing pain. But all of a sudden, a familiar hand gently supported him and pulled his battered body into an embrace. He opened his eyes absent-mindedly, and a picturesque face reflected in the bottom of his eyes. His weak heart that almost couldn't beat violently trembled. Tears unconsciously blurred his eyes. He murmured with a hoarse voice, "Yarrow Guang. Yarrow Guang. Is that you?" "It's me." A low sigh sounded in his ears, with blame, with a sigh, and dense heartache. "Shu, didn't I tell you to let go of the stubbornness in your heart? But after so many years, why are you still so stupid?" Shu Iluan heard the familiar voice, the familiar blame, but his face showed a dazed smile. After so many years, the only light and warmth left in his heart was that stubbornness and that figure. If he abandoned it, what would be left in his life? But fortunately, his stubbornness was correct. He finally saved Yarrow from being devoured. Light. He finally fulfilled his original vow. The gentle night wind blew over his body that was covered with cuts and bruises. The pain had made him lose all other senses. But inexplicably, he felt so happy and peaceful, as if a dusty memory in the bottom of his heart was suddenly opened by someone and placed in front of him so precious and precious. 18 years ago. You are the first in this year's assessment, Yi Lungsu. Why did you choose to come to Yaoguang branch? Yi Lungsu turned his head and met the woman's eyes, which were as bright as the stars in the summer night. The unkind words that were about to come out of his mouth somehow became, "No, it's none of your business." Ning Yaoguang laughed, "I'm the dean of the Alcade branch, and you're a student of the Alcade branch. How can I not care about you? By the way, what instrument are you best at? Blow flute. Playing the piano? Pipa. Yi Lungsu was dumbfounded. What instrument was that? He was a sword cultivator, so why would he learn that damn instrument? Heh. You don't know anything? How can we do that? Everyone in the Alcade branch must know a musical instrument. Even if you are not a musician, you must learn it. Yi Lungsu rejected without even thinking. He had come to the Starry School to cultivate and improve his abilities. He wanted to become the #1 swordsman in the azure blue world. Who would want to learn musical instruments? However, Ning Yaoguang didn't give him a chance to refuse. I think you should just learn the zither. No one in our academy studies the zither. It wasn't easy for me to find an ancient music score that required a zither and a zither to play together, but I didn't even have anyone who could play with me. All right, it's decided. I'll teach you. The woman's hand was so soft and white. She held his bronze-colored hand lightly and taught him how to play. A delicate fragrance wafted into his nose, like a feather, gently tugging at his heartstrings. Yi Lungsu blushed. Chapter 1676. From then on, Yi Lungsu's gaze fell more and more on this dean, who did not seem like a dean at all. Ning Yaoguang's looks were elegant, but her personality was that of a man, magnanimous and straightforward. Almost all the students in the Alcade branch, regardless of gender, were friends with her. Some students did not even call her teacher or dean, but called her Sister Ning. For some reason, Yi Lungsu always called her by her name. Ning Yaoguang corrected him a few times. I'm your teacher, shouldn't you at least call me sister or dean? However, Yi Lungsu did not care, and always called her Yaoguang. When he was only 25 years old, he had already broken through the golden core stage. Ning Yaoguang was already at the nascent soul stage at that time, and her cultivation was much higher than Yi Lungsu's. However, she was more interested in training her musician skills, so whenever she went out, Yi Lungsu would follow her to protect her. Ning Yaoguang was amused. I'm a nascent soul cultivator, the dean of the Alcade branch, and I need a kid to protect me? Then wouldn't I be regressing? When Yi Lungsu heard this, he did not know why, but he felt an indescribable rage, and coldly said, I'm not a kid. He slapped away Ning Yaoguang's hand that was touching his head. In the end, Ning Yaoguang could not dissuade him, and allowed him to go with her. In the forest, the two of them really met with danger. It was a secret region left behind by a devil cultivator. That devil cultivator was an evil cultivator like the All-Pleasure sect, except that the All-Pleasure sect was made up of females, and they specialized in seducing males to become cultivation vessels. This devil cultivator was a male, and he specialized in seducing females with pure yin physiques to throw themselves at him, so that he could absorb their yin energy for his own use. Ning Yaoguang accidentally entered the formation, and lost consciousness, and was almost caught by the demonic cultivator. It was Yi Lungsu who risked his life to save her, and carried her through the devil's swamp, escaping the pursuit of the demonic cultivator. The two of them were trapped in a cave in the devil swamp. Yi Lungsu's spiritual energy was almost depleted, while Ning Yaoguang's body was burning because of the strange formation. She hugged Yi Lungsu and kissed his lips. Yi Lungsu already had deep feelings for Ning Yaoguang. How could he endure the woman he loved throwing herself into his arms? Thus, it was a night of tumultuous love. When Ning Yaoguang woke up, she felt remorseful and blamed herself. When Yi Lungsu confessed to her, she rejected him without hesitation. Ning Yaoguang said, You're my student, which means you're my disciple. It's against the norm for us to be together. This time, it was my fault, but since it was my fault, I must correct it. Yi Lungsu, Ning Yaoguang, have you forgotten? I've never called you a mentor, nor have I ever called you a dean. What kind of master and disciple are we? In my heart, you're only Ning Yaoguang, the woman I love. I know I'm not strong enough now, and I'm not worthy of you, but one day, I will become a man worthy of you. I will stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and protect you. Ning Yaoguang was shocked by Yi Lungsu's words. She returned to the Alcade branch dejectedly, and found that Yi Lungsu had not returned. She had rejected him, But from then on, her mind was filled with Yi Lungsu's figure. Chapter 1677. A man who hated playing the zither but was willing to learn patiently for her. When training in the forest, he would always stay by her side, hunting beasts for her and cooking delicious food for her. No matter how she corrected him, he would always call her Yaoguang. And under the moon, when he played the zither with her, the gentleness in his eyes seemed to melt water. Ning Yaoguang finally had to admit that she was moved by Yi Lungsu. Just then, Di Yudao was officially promoted from Starry School's deputy college chief to the college chief. He confessed to Ning Yaoguang. Di Yudao poured out his feelings for Yaro Guang for so many years, and that fiery love devoured him. He said, "Junior sister Yaoguang, I am not as strong as you. In the past, I was afraid that I was not good enough for you. But now, I am finally the college chief of Starry School. From now on, I can give you the best life. You will be respected and envied by others. Yaoguang, will you marry me?" Ning Yaoguang rejected him without hesitation. Di Yudao had always been proud but also had a deep sense of inferiority. So this time, he had confessed to Yaoguang because he was confident. He did not expect Yaoguang to reject him. Di Yudao was ashamed and angry, but he did not show it on his face. He just left sadly, making Ning Yaoguang feel very guilty towards this honest big brother. But she had only treated Di Yudao as a brother. Moreover, she already had Yi Lungsu in her heart. She had already made up her mind to resign from her position as the college chief of Alcade Branch to find Yi Lungsu and tell him about her feelings. However, just as Yaoguang was about to leave Alcade Branch, she suddenly realized that the number of students in Alcade Branch decreased one after another. At first, it was only the outer yard. Later, even a few students from the inner yard disappeared. Moreover, this did not only happen in Alcade Branch. Students from other branches also disappeared. But these missing students were mostly lone cultivators with no power or background. Most of them did not have good friends in the school. So their disappearances did not cause much of a commotion. Most people thought that they had gone out to train or felt that cultivating in Starry School was too hard, so they did not want to return. Such a situation had happened before in the Starry School. However, Ning Yaoguang felt that something was wrong. She had always been on good terms with the students of the branch courtyard, regardless of whether they were from the outer courtyard or the inner courtyard. That was why many of the solitary students didn't interact with other classmates, but treated her as the only person they could trust. As for those missing students, they had clearly said that they wanted to learn the skills of musicians from her. How could they have disappeared for no reason? Therefore, Ning Yaoguang went to look for Di Yudao, hoping that he would investigate the disappearance of the students. Di Yudao had always granted his junior sister's request, so he immediately said that he would ask the student council to conduct a thorough investigation. However, the final result was still disappointing. Di Yudao hugged the depressed Ning Yaoguang and comforted her gently. "Junior sister, don't be sad. Maybe these people really went out to train." As he spoke, he hugged Ning Yaoguang even tighter and kissed her involuntarily. "Yaoguang, seeing you so sad, senior brother's heart hurts. Let me take care of you from now on, okay?" Ning Yaoguang suddenly came to her senses and pushed him away. She refused again without hesitation. "Senior brother, I'm sorry. I already have someone I like." Chapter 1678. She had fled in a hurry, hence she did not see Di Yudao's twisted expression. Di Yudao quickly sent people to investigate the people around Ning Yaoguang, and quickly found out about Yi Lungsu. Di Yudao hated Yi Lungsu to the core, and was driven mad with jealousy. Especially when he found out that Yi Lungsu and Ning Yaoguang had been intimate, he felt that Ning Yaoguang had betrayed him, and his hatred for Ning Yaoguang grew. Di Yudao pretended to tell Ning Yaoguang that there was news of the missing students. However, he had secretly drugged Yaoguang's tea, wanting to defile her. Who knew that after Yaoguang had been through the formation of the devil cultivators, her body had changed, and she was resistant to such drugs. At that critical moment, Ning Yaoguang woke up. She looked at the senior brother she had respected since young, and saw him in such a hideous state, she could not believe it. Diu replied, Ning Yaoguang, you brought this upon yourself. It was you who betrayed me first, you slut. I've been so good to you, even when I was looking for students to experiment on, I would look for students from other faculties, not Alcade. Yet, you had an affair with that lowly student of yours. How am I not good enough? Why would you choose that trash, and not be the dean's wife? Ning Yaoguang's eyes widened in shock. You were the one who captured the students. What did you do to them? Diu Dao laughed out loud, and brought Ning Yaoguang to the underground laboratory, to show her the students who had turned into monsters. He spoke, Yaoguang, I'm currently helping a noble person, as long as I succeed, I can go to the purple cloud world and become a respected person. As long as you follow me, I can guarantee that your future. Before he could finish, Ning Yaoguang spat viciously on his face. Diu Dao, you devil, bastard, you disgust me. You want me to be with you, I'll die. Diu Dao flew into a rage, and locked Ning Yaoguang up. He even forged Yarou Guang's notes and left behind a letter, making Meng Baichuan and the others think that Yarou Guang had resigned from her position as dean and left. Just like that, Ning Yaoguang was locked up for 3 months, and Diu Dao would come every day to ask if she had changed her mind, only to be chased away. Diu Dao became more and more irritable, and his hatred towards Yi Lungsu grew deeper and deeper. In the end, Number 7 Yi Lungsu came to find him when he heard that Ning Yaoguang had left. How could Diu Dao allow Yi Lungsu to live with the old and the new enmity? He fed the beast soul pellet to Yi Lungsu right in front of Ning Yaoguang, causing Ning Yaoguang to watch as Yi Lungsu turned into a monster and threw him into the Fushi Secret Realm's demon cave to become food for the Blood Abyss vines. Ning Yaoguang was so enraged that she actually broke through her cultivation and broke free from the immortal binding rope, almost killing Diu Dao. Tears streamed down Diu Dao's face as he recounted how he had been led astray, how they were siblings, and how his father had raised Ning Yaoguang. Ning Yaoguang wavered. Before this, she had always treated Diu Dao as her own brother. Diu Dao's father, her master, was someone Ning Yaoguang respected like a father. Ning Yaoguang didn't dare to imagine how sad her master would be if she killed her master's only son. In the end, her heart softened. She only tied Diu Dao up and planned to hold a starry school devouring ceremony. She would punish him for his crimes. However, Ning Yaoguang didn't expect that Diu Dao had raised a group of demonic soldiers. Chapter 1679. These demonic soldiers not only let Diu Dao go, but also broke into the Alcade branch and captured all the students as hostages, forcing Ning Yaoguang to give in. Ning Yaoguang was strong, but how could she ignore the lives of her students? She had to give in. But the students of the Alcade branch were not cowards. After seeing Diu Dao's true face, they fought back crazily, disregarding their own lives. They had to save Ning Yaoguang. Diu Dao's eyes were bloodshot. Regardless of whether the students resisted or not, they were all killed by him. That night, the Alcade branch was filled with blood, and corpses were everywhere. Ning Yaoguang's heart was also completely dead that night. After Diu Dao woke up, he realized what he had done. The corpses of the students of the Alcade branch must not be found, otherwise it would definitely cause a huge uproar. So he used the all-venom formation to seal all the corpses of the students behind the rocks. In the all-venom formation, the corpses of the students would not rot, but their souls would never be able to reincarnate. Diu Dao wanted to force Ning Yaoguang to sign a master-servant contract with him. But Ning Yaoguang directly jumped into the all-venom formation. Her lover's soul had already died. Her students were all dead because of her. She, Ning Yaoguang, did not have the face to continue living in this world. She would rather use her living body and soul to be sealed in the all-venom formation, to be a lonely dead spirit every night, than to live as a slave for Diu Dao. When Ning Yaoguang was imprisoned, Diu Dao forged a letter from her, saying that she had left to travel far away. Although Meng Baichuan and the others were worried, they felt that their junior sister had always been lively and liked adventure, so they did not take it to heart. But Ning Yaoguang did not come back. And after that night, the students of the Alcade branch were all slaughtered. Di Yudao created the illusion that the Alcade branch was attacked by the demonic cultivators, and all the students died, turning the Alcade branch into a place that everyone knew. From then on, the Alcade branch became a forbidden place that no one stepped into. Until the Xiao Yarrow 7 came. After listening to Ning Yaoguang's recount, Meng Baichuan couldn't believe his ears. Who could have imagined that the normally gentle, calm, upright and kind-hearted director was actually so filthy and disgusting? From the moment Ning Yaoguang appeared, Di Yudao had been staring fixedly at her, his gaze seemingly infatuated. After so many years, Ning Yaoguang's appearance had hardly changed because she had been sealed in the All formation. She was like the most brilliant flower, gorgeous and proud, blooming under the bright and beautiful sun. Radiant jade, Di Yudao said hoarsely, Yaoguang, all these years, I seem to have missed you. Why didn't you accept me back then? Do you know that in all these years, I have never fallen in love with another person? My love for you is deeper than anyone else in this world. Ning Yaoguang's eyes were filled with disgust. Your so-called love is to rob and kill my lover, my student. Your so-called love is to lock me up in this formation for 18 years. Di Yudao, there is nothing more disgusting than you in this world. Meng Baichuan and the others suddenly came to their senses, and stared fiercely at Di Yudao. You crazy beast, you don't even spare your own student, even our junior sister. Chapter 1680. Today, I will enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and seek justice for those innocent students who died. Xing Danqing also laughed coldly. You said that you would get rid of demons, but it turns out that you are the real demon. Di Yudao, now that things have come to this, you have nothing to say. What else do you have to say? Di Yudao's bloodshot eyes glared at the people in front of him. Suddenly, he howled madly into the sky. Good, good, since you all called me a beast and said that I am a demon. Today, I will let all of you die in the hands of a demonic cultivator. As soon as he finished speaking, flying boats suddenly descended from the sky. Dozens of black-clothed men rushed out from each flying boat. These black-clothed men were only in the Golden Core realm, but their expressions were twisted and their eyes were bloodshot. They did not have any consciousness. Their bodies also emitted a thick demonic aura. Seeing this, the expressions of Meng Baichuan and the rest changed. This was actually a team of 100 demonic cultivators. Just as Ning Yaoguang had said, Di Yudao had secretly raised a group of demonic soldiers. Of course, Xing Danqing and the rest of the nascent soul cultivators would not care about these demonic soldiers if they were just a few. But with so many demonic soldiers gathered together, they would form a majestic demonic aura. Even if Xing Danqing and the rest came into contact with such a thick demonic aura, they would not feel good. Di Yudao looked at them being forced into a panic by the demon soldiers, and the smile on his face became even more arrogant. 18 years ago, I was able to slaughter everyone in the Alcade branch. Tonight, I will kill all of you. As long as you all die, the history of tonight will be decided by me. In the future, everyone will know that it was Shu Iluan, the demonic cultivator, who barged into the Starry School and killed all the students in the Alcade branch. He even killed College Chief Xing and College Chief Meng. I, the College Chief, went through a lot of trouble to capture Shu Iluan. At that time, I will still be the College Chief of Starry School. Even the doors of the Ziyun world's royal family will be open to me. And all of you will just be bones under my feet. Ha ha ha. Clang. Di Yudao's laughter did not stop. Two Guqin sounds rang out at the same time. Ning Yaoguang had launched an attack on Di Yudao. On the other hand, Muyan's zither has triggered the Shun musician's skill, mutual accord contract. Dazzling golden runes were drawn in the air bit by bit, forming a formation. In just a few seconds, a huge spirit-locking talisman was drawn in the void. The zither sounded again. The spirit-locking talisman was activated, and the whole talisman in the void suddenly burned. Specks of golden light fell from the sky like fireworks, landing on Meng Baichuan, Xing Danqing, and the others, as well as the devil soldiers. A strange scene occurred. When the demonic aura coming from the demonic soldiers touched the golden light, it sizzled as if it was being burned. Then, it disappeared without a trace. There were even a few demon soldiers with thick demon chi on their bodies that let out shrill screams and tumbled to the ground. How could Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan not know this? They unleashed their full cultivation and subdued all the demonic soldiers. At the same time, Ning Yaoguang's sword landed on Di Yudao's neck. Di Yudao looked at the demon soldiers that had fallen to the ground in disbelief. These demon soldiers had always been his life-saving talismans, his last trump card. However, the demon soldiers that he had placed his last hope on were subdued so easily. Chapter 1682. Xiuxian Continent. In the Spirit Wind Palace of the Polar Domain, the atmosphere was solemn. The immortals standing on both sides had more or less fear and uneasiness in their eyes. There were also people who turned their eyes to the throne from time to time. Only when they saw that powerful and handsome godlike man could their hearts settle down. Of course, there were also people who looked at the door from time to time, as if waiting for some news. Finally, a black figure slowly formed at the door of the palace. The eyes of everyone in the palace brightened. He's finally back. Star Wolf strode into the palace and respectfully knelt down in front of Di Mingju. Subordinate Star Wolf pays respect to the Lord. This subordinate has already investigated the movements of the Netherrealm and the Devil World. Lord Star Wolf, quickly tell us, what are these two parties plotting? Before Di Mingju could reply, someone below had already impatiently asked. It's not that the gods of the polar domain couldn't hold their breath. But the movements of the Netherrealm this time were simply too strange. First, the holy dark yin flame suddenly reignited. Later, it was rumored that the only son of the Lord of the Netherrealm, Yin Yueni, had obtained the inheritance of the Holy Spirit of the Netherworld, and was about to become the real, Holy Emperor of the Netherworld. Now, he was frequently meeting with the devil generals of the Devil World, as if they were plotting something. The strength of the polar domain was naturally much higher than that of the Netherrealm. But if the Netherrealm really formed an alliance with the Devil World, then the polar domain would be attacked from all sides. This was a result that the gods of the polar domain didn't want to see. Star Wolf lowered his eyes and said in a low voice, "The Netherrealm will form a marriage alliance with the Devil race." As soon as these words came out, the entire hall was quiet for a moment. Marriage alliance? Who will marry who? Star Wolf, it is said that the revered demon Lord Jun Shitian has a daughter who is wandering outside. But whether this daughter is dead or alive, whether she is ugly or beautiful, where she is, no one knows. But the revered demon lord suddenly had the idea to arrange a marriage alliance for his daughter. Then who will marry the revered demon lord's daughter in the Netherrealm? Is it Yin Yueni? Star Wolf, not Yin Yueni. Yin Wuji didn't want his precious son, Yin Yueni, to marry a wife of unknown origin, so he secretly prepared another candidate. It is said that that person is also Yin Wuji's son. However, for some unknown reason, no one knows of his existence. As Star Wolf spoke, his expression became strange for a moment. Who knew that Yin Wuji hadn't even vaguely suggested that he wanted to replace Yin Yueni with another son? Jun Shitian, the Dark Lord, mocked Yin Yueni in public and said that he didn't deserve his daughter. On the other hand, the other son that Yin Wuji mentioned, Jun Shitian, said that he was barely acceptable. Recalling Yin Yueni's gloomy face, Star Wolf couldn't help but want to laugh. However, his smile quickly disappeared and his expression turned solemn. But no matter what, the demon world and the Netherrealm are very satisfied with this result. If nothing unexpected happens, I'm afraid the marriage contract will be concluded in the next few days. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the people who were listening to this news as if it was an anecdote changed drastically. Yes. What did it mean for both sides to be satisfied? This meant that the demon race and the Netherrealm would form an alliance without any ill feelings. The merging of these two enormous forces would pose a great threat to the polar domain in the future. Lord. Someone raised his head and said excitedly, "We must stop this matter." We must not let the Nether Realm and the demon race form an alliance. Otherwise, there will never be a day of peace in the polar domain. Chapter 1683. Di Ming-ju faintly looks at the speaker. How do you think we should stop it? This question caused everyone to be stumped. Yes. How could they stop this? Could it be that he would rush to the demon world and say, "You are not allowed to have a marriage alliance with the Nether Realm"? Star Wolf suddenly coughed lightly, and said, "Junjuanshang, there's another piece of news from the Fiend's side. It is said that Jun Shitian is not particularly satisfied with the son-in-law candidate. Therefore, the marriage certificate does not intend to form an eternal contract, but only a 3-year marriage. After 3 years, whether his daughter is not found or his daughter is not satisfied with the marriage, the engagement will be annulled." Hey! It's only a 3-year engagement. Star Wolf's words caused the eyes of many people in the hall to light up. An elder on the rightmost side of the line immediately stepped out from the crowd and said excitedly, "Lord, didn't the demon lord say that he wanted to find the most outstanding man in the world to be his son-in-law? In this world, which man could be more outstanding than Jun Shong? As long as you propose a marriage alliance with the demon race, then what does the Nether Realm have to do with you?" Yes. Anyway, it was only a 3-year engagement. If the demon lord's daughter was really unbearable, they could just call off the engagement. In this way, we can not only dissolve the alliance between the Nether World and the Devil Realm, but also pull the Devil race to our side. It's truly killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Wonderful. In the High Sky Hall, everyone's discussion was in full swing. They could practically see the miserable state of Yin Wuji, the lord of the Nether region, crying bitterly. As for worrying about the engagement, what a joke. What kind of person was their Jun Shong? In this world, is there a man more outstanding, more handsome, and more powerful than Jun Shong? No. Not a single one. If Jun Shitian doesn't even like his lord, then his daughter doesn't need to get married. However, Elder Chang, Han Yi, and the others who are closest to Di Ming-ju, and even Xing Lang, quietly shrink their necks. Please don't say any more. Didn't they feel that the entire Lingxiao Palace was about to freeze? Finally, the murderous and piercingly cold atmosphere in the hall made the people who were discussing in full swing feel that something was wrong. "You mean, you want me to arrange a marriage?" The man's cold voice was no different from his usual tone. But when it entered the ears of everyone in the hall, it caused them to shiver. Then, unexpectedly, he raised his head and met a pair of cold and sharp blue eyes. Some people's legs went soft and they almost knelt on the ground. Oh my God! Jun Shong is angry. Di Ming-ju looks down at the deathly pale complexions of the people below. They're in fear and trepidation. The corner of his mouth slowly hooks up into a mocking arc. When did the polar domain become so timid that they had to rely on marriage to protect themselves? A marriage alliance between the Nether Realm and the demon race has made you so anxious that you have even thrown away your pride and dignity in the past. Di Ming-ju rarely says such long words, but each of his words is like a heavy hammer, ruthlessly pounding on everyone's hearts. The faces of everyone in the hall were filled with shame, and they wished they could find a hole to hide in. Yes. What was wrong with them? The future mistress of the polar domain, how honorable, how sacred a position was that? What if he could casually betroth it to the daughter of the demon lord? What if his daughter was not beautiful at all? What if the daughter was just a mortal? Could it be that the entire polar domain had to revere such an unbearable woman as the divine empress? No. Absolutely not. This is simply more frightening than facing the alliance between the Nether Realm and the demon race. Chapter 1684. Di Ming-ju slowly stands up, his cold and untamed gaze sweeping over everyone present. "Ben-jun's choice of wife, only Ben-jun can decide. If any of you mention a marriage alliance with the demon race again, sure, this lord will fulfill your wish. I'll give you the position of Polar Domain's sovereign lord, and let you go and form a marriage alliance with the fiend race. How about it?" No. Absolutely not. Emperor, please calm down. We won't dare to do it again. The daughter of the demon race is nothing. How can she be worthy of our emperor? If a mere Netherrealm wants to form an alliance with the demon race, then so be it. If they dare to invade my polar domain, then they won't be able to return. Di Ming Ju sneers. Then let Ben Jun see your performance. With that, he disappeared in a flash. My lord. Jun Shong. Elder Yu, who was the first to propose the marriage, was dumbfounded. Jun Shong's aura disappeared? Where did you go? Elder Chang coughed lightly, and with a straight face, he said, You've disappointed the ruler too much. You actually want the ruler to marry to maintain the peace of the polar domain. What's the difference between this and pushing the ruler into a marriage alliance? Elder Yu and the rest of the polar realm's exalted gods all revealed ashamed expressions. There were even people whose eyes were brimming with tears as they said, We have failed to live up to the Lord's expectations, to actually think of such a cowardly way to avoid battle. Is His Majesty really going to abdicate the throne and never come back because he's angry with us? How can this be? The polar domain's monarch can only be Lord alone. The future mistress of the polar domain is Jun Shong's wife. Only Jun Shong can choose her. From now on, we won't dare to say anything. Jun Shong, please come back quickly. Elder Chang, cough, cough, cough. Don't worry. Although his lordship is angry, he also said that it depends on your performance. I think Jun Shong is just going to the Xiozhen continent to relax and will be back in a few days. Don't tell me you guys haven't noticed that Star Wolf, Han Yi, and the rest have already caught up. Only then did everyone return to their senses. When they found out that the monarch was still the monarch, they heaved a long sigh of relief. The crowd quickly dispersed. Since they had decided not to form a marriage alliance with the demon race, the polar domain naturally had to start preparing for war. Elder Yu couldn't help but mutter, Why do I feel that Lord has been going to the lower realms more and more often recently, and the time he spent there is also getting longer and longer. Elder Chang coughed twice again, then turned around and left with an indifferent expression. Hee, that's because the noble future mistress of the polar domain you speak of is in the lower realm. Just wait, Jun Shong will soon give all of you a big surprise. Tian Yi Men. From time to time, clanking sounds could be heard from Lung Qingwan's room. What followed was the sound of whipping, the painful moans of the maids, and the pleading voices. Useless thing. Useless things. I asked you to prepare the immortal medicine needed for the Fenghua quicksand, but you can't even do such a small thing. What use do I have for you? Sob sob sob, young master spare me, young master spare me. The maid cried and begged for mercy as she rolled on the ground. It's not that we don't want to prepare, it's that after the polar domain announced to sever their relationship with our Tianyi men, those shops that supply immortal medicines no longer agreed to sell us immortal medicines at a discount. Some rare immortal medicines, they would rather keep them than sell them to us. This servant has no other choice, sob 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 sob. How could Lung Qingwan listen to what she's saying? The whip in her hand lashes out even more fiercely. Chapter 1685. He whipped the maid until her flesh was badly mangled and her body was covered with cuts and bruises. Just then, the door to the room was pushed open. Lung Yuexia looked at the mess in the room and frowned in disgust. She then said in a low voice, Qingwan, what are you doing? When Lung Qingwan heard Lung Yuexia's voice, she slowly restrained her ruthlessness. Soon after, she couldn't help but cry out. She threw herself into Lung Qingwan's embrace with tears in her eyes. Master, those immortal medicine shops are going too far. They're actually not even willing to sell us a few immortal medicines. When will I be able to cultivate my magnificent quicksand? Useless thing. Lung Yuexia pushed her away and said coldly, It's just some ordinary immortal medicine. If they don't want to sell it, do you think we can't get it? What's more, the most important thing about the wind magnificent quicksand has never been those spirit herbs or immortal herbs, but that one medicinal catalyst. Speaking of this catalyst drug, Lung Qingwan became even more hysterical. I really don't know how those good-for-nothings do their work. They clearly said that they already found the catalyst drug, but after so long, they still haven't presented it to me. Lung Yuexia looked at her in disgust, but she immediately restrained her disgust and gently comforted her. Don't worry, Master has already sent your 2 martial uncles down a few days ago. No matter what, they will bring back the drug for you. When Lung Qingwan heard this, her eyes immediately lit up. She knew the cultivation of her 2 uncle masters. They were much higher than her. Furthermore, they were extremely serious and meticulous in their work. They were loyal and devoted to their master. With these 2 martial uncles helping her, she would definitely be able to obtain the magnificent quicksand's medicinal catalyst. Ha ha ha, at that time, she will have Jun Muyan's face and receive the Empress favor. The position of the extreme domain divine Empress, endless glory, splendor, wealth, power and status, all of this would belong to her. Cultivation continent, azure blue world. Li Zupeng bowed in fear and trepidation. In front of him were 2 old men in their 50s. The man was called Jiyu Yuchong and the woman was called Nguilan. If one only looked at their clothes and appearance, they would be treated as the most ordinary mortal husband and wife. Whether it was his figure or appearance, there was nothing special about him. The aura around him and the spiritual energy around him were all gone. However, Li Zupeng knew that these 2 people were not mortals. They were immortals from the Shoshian continent. Their strength had already reached the point where they could crush him to death with a casual flick of their fingers. Jiyu Yuchong looked at Li Zupeng and asked, "You said you found the wind quicksand's catalyst medicine, but you let her escape?" Li Zupeng was instantly sweating profusely, and he almost fell to his knees. "Immortal Venerable, please calm down. That magnificent quicksand ingredient, although it's not with this subordinate, but this subordinate knows where it is. This subordinate has already inquired clearly." When Jiyu Yuchong and Nguilan heard that he hadn't lost the catalyst drug, their faces relaxed a little. "Oh, where is the catalyst now?" Li Zupeng wiped the sweat off his forehead. Replying to the 2 immortal venerables. The catalyst had been captured by the people of the Starry School and was currently locked up in the Alcade branch. There are barriers inside and outside the Starry School, and there are many nascent soul cultivators inside. I was really afraid of alerting them, so I could only wait here for an opportunity. It's just a school barrier, and Nguilan snorted in disdain. Li Zupeng immediately flattered, "With the 2 of you taking action, the barrier of the Starry School is naturally useless. The people inside are not even worthy of being crushed to death like ants by you." Chapter 1686. Jiyu rushes to his feet. "Let's set off immediately and bring the medicine back to the Shoshian continent." Yarrow Guang branch. Mu Yang retracts her hand from Shu Iluan's pulse and gently shakes her head at Ning Yaoguang. Vice Dean Shu's injuries are very serious. When he fought with Di Yudao, he had to burn his devil body in order to preserve the reincarnation array. But these injuries, I'm sure I can cure them. Even if I can't restore his strength, at least he can live like an ordinary person for a few more decades. But there's still a fatal problem with him. Mu Yang looks at Ning Yaoguang and slowly says, 18 years ago, he was fed a beast soul pill, and his divine soul suffered a huge injury. Later, after becoming a devil, in order to keep improving his cultivation, he desperately cultivated, regardless of the possibility of Qigong deviation and his divine soul being shattered. Moreover, most of the forbidden techniques that he practiced had great side effects. After Shu Iluan was thrown into the Fushi secret realm, before the secret realm closed, a devil cultivator happened to pass by. The devil cultivator sucked dry the black-clothed man who was guarding at the side. He found that Shu Iluan looked like neither a human nor a ghost, but he still maintained his consciousness and kept calling for Yaoguang. The devil cultivator saw his persistent appearance and found it very interesting. Just before the secret realm closed, he rescued him. He also put a devil seed in his body, wanting to cultivate him into his own devil soldier. Who knew that Shu Iluan's willpower was so strong that ordinary people simply couldn't imagine, plus his divine soul was integrated with the Chang Jiao's beast soul. Not only was he not swallowed by the devil seed, But he also swallowed the devil seed and sucked dry the devil cultivator's devil chi. Shu Iluan completely became a devil, but he still retained his consciousness. Even the murderous and tyrannical nature of the devil seed was forcibly suppressed by his longing and love for Yaoguang. But it was precisely because of this forced suppression and crazy cultivation that his body became more and more unbearable. Mu Yang sighs softly. Now, his body and soul are already riddled with holes. I'm afraid he won't live for more than a few days. Ning Yaoguang stares at the man lying on the bed, her expression absent-minded and stupefied. Her eyes flow with deep sadness and resentment. She hated Di Yudao, but she hated herself even more. If she hadn't mistakenly trusted Di Yudao, the students of the Alcade branch wouldn't have died, and Yilungsu wouldn't have ended up like this. If it wasn't for her indecisiveness, she wouldn't have missed out on Yilungsu for 18 years. In the end, before their relationship could even begin, they had to be separated by life and death. A large rough hand slowly caressed her face, gently wiping away the tears on her face. Only now did Ning Yaoguang realize that her face was covered in tears. She grabbed the man's weak hand and sobbed, "Ah Shu, don't leave me again, okay? I've waited for you for 18 years, and I've finally reunited with you. I haven't told you that I like you. I haven't even grown old with you and given birth to a bunch of children. If you die, what am I going to do alone?" Shu Iluan's dim eyes lit up, the smile on his face was gentle yet sorrowful. "Yaoguang, I've been waiting for you to say you like me for 18 years. Do you really like me? Is it the teacher's fondness for the student, or it's a wife's fondness for her husband? It's a lover's fondness." Ning Yaoguang couldn't bear it any longer and cried out in pain. Chapter 1687. Ah Shu, 18 years ago, I wanted to resign my position as Yaoguang Branch's dean to find you. I want to tell you with my own mouth that I like you, not like a mentor to a student, but a woman's love for a man. I want to ask you, are you still willing to accept me? I'm so careless, so stupid, I can't do anything well, I can't wash clothes or cook, I can't do needlework. Are you willing to have such a wife? No, it's not like that. Shu Iluan's breathing becomes a bit heavier. You're the best Yaoguang in the world. I'm really happy to be able to hear you say. His voice becomes softer and softer, and his eyelids slowly droop. Yaoguang, whether it's a human or a demon, I just want to find you and protect you. Now, I've finally done it. Ning Yaoguang's heart suddenly jumps, her stiff fingers tremble, and the hand she's holding softly hangs down. Ah Shu. She throws herself on the man and bursts into tears. Ah Shu, I beg you, don't leave me. On the night she saw the light of day again, she lost the man she loved the most in the world. This kind of rebirth, this kind of life, what's the point? Ning Yaoguang absent-mindedly opens her tearful eyes. She obsessively looks at Shu Iluan's face, murmuring, "Ah Shu, wait for me, I'll go with you now. On the road to the Yellow Springs, you won't be lonely with me by your side." Ning Yaoguang slowly raises her hand, condensing 100% of her spiritual energy in her palm. She's about to slap the top of her head. "Wait." Muyan promptly calls out to stop her. Meng Baichuan is so frightened that he rushes over and scatters the spiritual force in her palm. "Junior sister, what are you doing?" Ning Yaoguang bitterly smiles. "Senior brother, Muyan, I'm shouldering the lives of the entire Yaoguang branch's students. Now that even Ah Shu has left me, I really don't know what reason I have to live. Perhaps I shouldn't have come out of the seal at all." Muyan helplessly presses her temples. "Senior Yaoguang, can you listen to what I have to say? Vice Dean Shu really can't live as a human, but I didn't say that he would disappear." Ning Yaoguang and Meng Baichuan looked up at the same time. What do you mean by that?" In fact, as early as when Mu Yang started to feel Shu Iluan's pulse, she had already discovered that he was like a lamp that had run out of oil. Furthermore, Shu Iluan's body had already been completely contaminated by demonic qi, so it was impossible for him to withstand the healing of spiritual power. Even if Mu Yang was willing to sacrifice her lifespan to use Saint's benevolence, it was impossible to save him. Mu Yang recalls Ning Yaoguang's experience, and how she has nothing now, and she can't help but feel sad. At this moment, Qi Huang's voice rang in his ears. Hehe, isn't it easy to keep him alive? Haven't you noticed that although his human soul is riddled with holes, a part of the Chang Jiao's soul has already merged with his divine soul? Among all the beast souls, the Chang Jiao's soul is the easiest to be carried by an artifact. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been made into a beast soul pill so easily. Mu Yang stares blankly. To be carried by an artifact, you mean to turn Vice Dean Shu into an artifact spirit? Bah! 7 Brilliants flew into a rage. Do you think an artifact spirit is some Tom, Dick, or Harry that can casually appear? Jun Muyan, you're insulting this deity. Mu Yang, fine, fine, fine. Honorable artifact spirit, I was wrong, okay? Chapter 1688. So, in the end, how can we let Deputy Dean Shu survive? Qi Huang humphed. What does a mortal's life and death have to do with this sage? Why should this sage tell you? Unless. Mu Yang, unless what? Qi Huang, cough. Unless you fill the Tianguang ruins with more crystals for this sage to play with. Mu Yang stares blankly at first, then she quickly takes out her Tianguang ruins jade key and immediately screams, Qi Xiaohuang, you're courting death. So many high-grade crystals, and you fucking squandered them all for me. Qi Huang puts on a brave front and shouts, where would there be a lot of high-grade crystals? Isn't it just a few 100,000? Jun Mu Yang, this sage doesn't want to criticize you, but you're too poor. A dignified Shen musician descendant, the master of the Tianmo Qin, you actually live so shabbily. You've simply lost this sage's face. Why aren't you going to earn more crystals? Mu Yang grimaces, Qi Xiaohuang, I think your skin is really itchy. Do you want to taste the itchy meat set tonight? Jun Mu Yang, who do you think you are? You dare to threaten this sage? Qi Huang stomps his feet in the space. However, when he sees that Mu Yang is really going to pluck the Tianmo Qin, he immediately cowers. I need the rootless wood. Shu Yiluan's soul needs the rootless wood to parasitize. You can put him in the Tianmo Qin first, and then put him in when you find the rootless wood. His soul won't collapse, and he won't fall into reincarnation. Mu Yang's attention is indeed diverted by him. She frowns, rootless wood. What kind of elixir is that? How come I've never heard of it? Where can I find it? The rootless wood is not an elixir, but a rare material for refining tools. It can't be found on the market. Jun Mu Yang, you're so ignorant, of course you haven't heard of it. Qi Huang has an arrogant look, the expression on his face almost says, Jun Mu Yang, come and beg me and I'll tell you. Looking at this brat's behavior, Mu Yang's hands itched. She really wanted to beat him up. Qi Xiaohuang, if you don't say it, don't expect me to put a single spar in your flowing light seal for the next month. Qi Huang said angrily, bastard, if you don't give the crystal to me, who are you going to give it to? Are you keeping another gigolo outside? Mu Yang presses her temple. 7. Small. Huang. 7 Brilliants snorted coldly. All right. Let me think about it. In this broken cultivation continent, there aren't many places with rootless wood. How long has it been since I last came to this broken place? How would I remember it? You don't even fucking know where the rootless wood is, yet you're showing off in front of me. Qi Xiaohuang, you idiot. Hearing Mu Yang say that she wanted Shu Yiluan's soul to reside in the rootless wood, Ning Yaoguang was ecstatic. Mu Yang, is what you said true? Can rootless wood really save our Shu? Mu Yang, you can only survive as a soul, but even a soul can cultivate. It's just that it's very, very difficult to condense it back into a physical body. It might take 1,000 years, or it might take 10,000 years. Moreover, Senior Yarrow Guang, if your cultivation base cannot break through and transcend the tribulation, after you die, Vice Headmaster Shu can only stay in the rootless wood alone. Even so, are you willing to let Vice Headmaster Shu live? Ning Yaoguang suddenly froze, the happy smile on her face frozen. However, At this moment, Shu Iluan's voice comes from the Tianmo Qin. Chapter 1689. I'm willing. Even if there's only a sliver of a chance to be with Yaoguang, I'm willing to bet on it. Without Yaoguang, whether it's 1 day, 18 years, or 10,000 years, it makes no difference to me. Yaoguang, are you willing to give me another chance to stay by your side? Ning Yaoguang's tears rolled down. All right, Shu, we'll be together forever. Whether it's 1 day, or 10,000 years, if I'm going to die, I'll find another, rootless wood, and accompany you forever. Mu Yang didn't say that a normal person's soul couldn't enter the rootless wood, and she believed that even if she said it, Shu Iluan and Yarrow Guang wouldn't change their minds. Otherwise, these two wouldn't have waited for 18 years, and the other would rather die than live alone. But there's another problem. Mu Yang said, I don't know where to find the rootless wood. Meng Baichuan and Ning Yaoguang looked at each other, not to mention finding the rootless wood, they hadn't even heard of it. The rootless wood. Little master, I know. Xiao Bao, who was obediently following Mu Yang's tail, suddenly heard Bai Xie's voice. Xiao Bao blinked and took out the Bai Xie sword. Where is the rootless wood? Bai Xie shook the sword, because it had eaten its fill yesterday. It was very lazy today. Among the cultivators that were thrown into the Fushi secret realm, there was a demonic cultivator. I heard him mention the rootless wood. It seems to be on a small island in the Woodfern Sea. It's quite close to here. That was already more than 10 years ago. That demonic cultivator in the Fushi secret realm was resentful that the rootless wood wasn't ripe. Otherwise, with the rootless wood, he would definitely be able to leave the Fushi secret realm. I even heard that demonic cultivator roaring. What, 8 years? It's only 8 years away. So I'm guessing that the rootless wood on that small island should have just ripened by now. If no one else found it, it's probably still there. This news was simply an unexpected surprise, smashing Ning Yaoguang and Shu Iluan into a daze. Ning Yaoguang didn't dare to imagine that she could really come back from the dead, that she could really have a chance at happiness. She immediately decided to go to the island alone to look for the rootless wood. Although the embodiment of Shu Iluan's soul can reside in the Tianmo Qin, the Tianmo Qin is not like the rootless wood. The Tianmo Qin itself is a lethal weapon, a sharp weapon, and it naturally has a powerful tool spirit like 7 brilliance. Shu Iluan has been residing in the Tianmo Qin for a long time. His soul has been consumed little by little, until his soul flies away and disperses. Before leaving, Ning Yaoguang gives all the zither scores that he has collected over the years to Muyan. The two of them had known each other for a very long time, and the age gap between them was also very big. But because of the sound of the zither, because of the music, the two of them could not help but regard each other as confidants. Ning Yaoguang, in particular, didn't know how to thank this junior of hers. If it wasn't for her, Shu Iluan would have died tragically in the Alcade branch courtyard. Di Yudao's scheme would have succeeded, and she wouldn't even have been able to see the light of day again. Mu Yang, Ning Yaoguang, will never forget your kindness to me. Ning Yaoguang's tone was indifferent, yet his eyes were filled with boundless firmness and resolution. From today onwards, so long as you have any errands for me, I, Ning Yaoguang, will definitely go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. If I violate this oath, may the heavens and earth destroy me. After she said such an oath, she found that the young girl in front of her was only faintly smiling. Chapter 1690. She wasn't moved, nor did she refuse in fear and trepidation. It was as if she had long been accustomed to such a scene. She was obviously so young, but she could already see the prosperity of the world and deal with it calmly. Ning Yaoguang suddenly felt that such a scene, such a girl with a light smile, was so familiar, as if it had left a thick and heavy stroke in her distant memory. She suddenly couldn't help but say, "You look like someone I know." Mu Yang was curious. Who? The most distinguished young lady of my Ning family. Ning Yaoguang murmured, many years ago, I once saw her from afar. At that time, I was still very young. Just that one glance made her feel ashamed of her inferiority, and she couldn't forget it. Even in her dreams, she wished to become a carefree and unrestrained woman like her. Later, she slowly forgot the young lady's appearance, but that dream and obsession were still deeply engraved in her mind. Ning Yaoguang didn't know why she suddenly remembered this scene. Perhaps it was because when Mu Yang smiled, it was as light as the clouds and the breeze, as if nothing had happened. It was so similar to that person. Ning Yaoguang couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Nothing? I was just talking nonsense. Mu Yang, I'm leaving, take care. After sending Ning Yaoguang away, Mu Yang began to prepare for Su Zi's operation. When he heard that Mu Yang was going to cut open Su Zi's abdomen and do some heart surgery, Xing Danqing was so scared that he almost fainted. He wouldn't agree no matter what, and he almost wanted to kill Mu Yang. In the end, Su Zi threatened to kill himself, saying that if she didn't let the little sister do the operation for him, he would rather die now. Xing Danqing had to pinch his nose and agree. However, in his heart, he was filled with 10 million distrust towards this little girl, Mu Yang. What a joke! This girl was already the strongest fighter in the 3 academies, the Lord of Clear Sky, Yi Liang Chen. The talisman she drew was also the champion of the finals of the Heavenly Light era. As a musician's auxiliary ability, it was said to be the strongest in history and never in the future. If she could also cure diseases and save people, she could even cure Su Zi, who couldn't be cured by the doctors of Ziyunjie. Then what was this guy? An Evildor? A monster? This was absolutely impossible. Xing Danqing was determined to stay on the side to observe the operation. If Su Zi's life was in danger, he would definitely stop him. During Mu Yan's operation, she also very much needs the help of a high-level cultivator with powerful spiritual power. There were only 2 or 3 nascent soul cultivators in the Starry School. Ning Yaoguang set off for the Woodfern Sea in search of the rootless wood. Because of Di Yudao's death, Meng Baichuan was elected as the Starry School's college chief at the last minute. The mentors from the other branches were also doing their best to clean up the mess left behind by Di Yudao. No matter how he counted, Xing Danqing, the Phoenix Sky Academy's dean, was the most spacious and had the densest spiritual energy. This time, Xiao Bao didn't follow Mu Yang into the operation room. Instead, he was dragged away by the people of the Xiaoyaro sect. The experience of breaking into Di Yudao's secret chamber that night was a huge blow to the Xiaoyaro sect. It was one thing that they couldn't beat Junior Sister, but could it be that they couldn't even beat Junior Sister's son? What a joke! These martial uncles and martial uncles were all so shameless. However, reality gave them a heavy blow. If Xiaobao picked up the evil warding sword, he could easily beat all of them down. Chapter 1691. Even without the Bixia sword, Xiao Bao only lost to Yun Ruohan, Qin Ju, and Leng Yumo, who were the strongest. Ling Yusheng could barely fight Xiao Bao to a draw with his speed. Chu Moli was not good at fighting and had no interest in fighting, so he did not participate in the fight with Xiao Bao. Thus, Luo Yu became the only person who was beaten by Xiao Bao, regardless of whether she had a sword or not. Luo Yu was about to cry, "Sixth senior sister, you can't bully people like this. You're so powerful, but why is your son so abnormal? How can I, the 7th martial uncle, show my face in the future?" Xiao Bao remembered that his mother told him not to bully his martial uncles and martial uncles. He also remembered that these martial uncles and martial uncles had bought him good things. Thus, he walked up with a straight face and patted Luo Yu's shoulder. "7th martial uncle, don't cry. Continue to work hard. Next time, hold on for 10 minutes. Ha 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 ha." The other people of the Xiao Yarrow school laughed. Leng Yumo hugged Xiao Bao and kissed him. "Oh, Xiao Bao, you're so cute." Xiao Bao's face was red. He dodged left and right and said coldly, "Men and women should not touch each other. 4th martial uncle, let go of me." Another round of laughter came from the square. However, at this moment, there was a buzzing sound. The Bixia sword flew out of Xiao Bao's body without being summoned. Xiao Bao's expression changed. "Who's there?" Almost at the same time, The 6 people of the Xiao Yarrow school prepared for battle and looked at a place in the sky. Who are you? Why did you come to the Alcade branch in hiding? Leng Yumor shouted. Come out if you can. Ha ha, ha ha ha, you're so young, but you're so arrogant. However, I forgive your ignorance. In any case, you're all going to die soon. As they spoke, 2 figures wearing brown robes slowly appeared on the other side of the square. Behind them were Li Zuping and 2 boys in blue robes. One of the boys was holding a lump of flesh that was no longer human. Seeing the lump of flesh and Li Zuping, the expressions of the people of the Xiao Yarrow school changed. Chu Moli's face no longer had that rare fake smile on it. His deep voice carried a trace of coldness as he slowly said, Liu Ruoxuan. That lump of flesh and blood was Liu Ruoxuan, who had been tortured to the point that she didn't even resemble a human. She couldn't speak or move, her hair was white, her face was covered in wrinkles, and she was even delirious. Jiyu Yuchong coldly snorted, his face full of anger. A good magnificent quicksand medicinal catalyst has been tortured to the point where it only has a little bit of luck left. I wonder how much medicinal effect it will have after being used as medicine. All of you deserve to die. And you. Jiyu Yuchong suddenly turned around and ruthlessly slapped Li Zuping's face. Li Zuping screamed and fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Nguilan gloomily said, You've already found the magnificent quicksand, but you still can't protect it. Trash that can't even complete such a small task, what's the use of keeping you? When Li Zuping saw Nguilan and Jiyu Yochong's murderous expressions, he was scared out of his wits. He didn't even care about his own internal injuries. He ran over and hugged Jiyu Yochong's leg, crying and begging, Senior Jiyu, I know I was wrong. Please spare my lowly life. Jiyu Yuchong looked at him in disgust and was about to kick him away. Chapter 1692. Li Zuping suddenly thought of something and said loudly, Right, Muyan has a zither. That zither is even more powerful than a godly artifact. I can't use it at all. A zither. More powerful than a godly artifact. Li Zuping nodded frantically, yes, I can guarantee it with my life. That zither can shoot thousands of blades at the same time. It can instantly increase or decrease a person's fighting strength. It can also use the sound of the zither to create a sound wall. Not only can the sound wall resist an attack from a nascent soul cultivator, it can also reflect attack. Jiyu Yuchong and Nguilan's expressions changed. Are you telling the truth? Absolutely. Li Zuping said loudly, Senior, think about it. Even if it's a godly artifact, I, a nascent soul cultivator, can't completely control it. If a nascent soul cultivator can't control an extremely powerful zither, then it can only be a magic treasure that's far more powerful than a godly artifact. Jiyu Yuchong and Nguilan both looked at the people from the Xiao Yarrow sect with a burning desire in their eyes. Although they didn't have high hopes for magic treasures from the cultivation continent, if it really was a treasure that was above the level of a godly artifact, it would be a good harvest for them. Jiyu Yuchong arrogantly said to the people of the Xiao Yarrow sect, Hand over the zither and I'll let you die a quick death. The old man in front of him was clearly speaking in the most ordinary tone, and his body didn't emit any powerful pressure. However, the people of the Xiao Yarrow sect still looked serious and their bodies were stiff. Sweat even dripped down from their foreheads. The only one who didn't feel Jiyu Yochong's invisible pressure was Xiao Bao. The zither is mother's. No one can take it from me. A cold childish voice sounded fearlessly. Jiyu Yuchong couldn't help but look over in surprise. Although he didn't deliberately release his killing intent, the invisible pressure and the crushing cultivation made these ants of the cultivation continent unable to resist. At this moment, it was difficult for them to even stand. But this 5-year-old child actually didn't feel his pressure at all? How is this possible? However, with one look, Jiyu Yochong's eyes almost popped out. This is a godly artifact. No, it's a godly king artifact. It's of a higher grade than a divine monarch weapon. What kind of sword is this? He abruptly turned his head and exchanged a glance with Nguilan. They both saw the excitement in each other's eyes. Let's not talk about the zither that Li Zupeng mentioned. Just the sword in this child's hand and the mystical aura it emitted made it a rare treasure even in the Shoshian continent. This time, the two of them came to the cultivation continent to look for the catalyst drug. Nguilan said with a smile, "Old man, it seems that we'll have to stay in this cultivation continent for 2 more days." Jiyu Yuchong casually threw the Liu Ruoxuan in his hand to the boy behind him. "You guys take the medicine and report to the sect master first. Just say that Guilan and I have some matters to deal with in the cultivation continent." The 2 children were their confidants, so they naturally had no objections. They lifted Liu Ruoxuan and soared into the sky, disappearing into the horizon. Jiyu Yuchong looked at the evil warding sword in Xiaobao's hand and said slowly, "Little boy, if you obediently hand over the sword in your hand, I'll leave your corpse intact. How about it?" Before Little Treasure could answer, the other people of the Xiaoyaro school were already in an uproar. Chapter 1693. No one should even think of touching our martial nephew. If you want to kill Xiao Bao, you'll have to step over our corpses. In the blink of an eye, Yun Ruohan, Qin Ju, Leng Yumor, Ling Yusheng, and Luo Yu were all ready for battle. They firmly protected Xiao Bao's small figure behind them. Xiao Bao blankly looked at the people blocking in front of him. For a moment, he couldn't tell what the sour and warm feeling in his chest was. When he had just reunited with his mother, Xiao Bao had once asked, "What are martial uncles and martial uncles?" In reality, Xiao Bao didn't like people being so intimate with his mother. It was as if his mother would be snatched away by others. But his mother had told him, Xiao Bao has 6 martial uncles and martial uncles, as well as a martial granduncle and a master. This means that in the future, Xiao Bao will have many relatives who will love Xiao Bao like my mother. Isn't this good? Relatives who love Xiao Bao like his mother? Xiao Bao thought of his uncle and grandfather, but he was still confused. In his life, the only family member that he remembered the most was his mother, and now he had another father. But what kind of relatives would martial uncles and martial uncles be? But at this moment, Xiao Bao felt that he seemed to understand. Jiyu Yochong's face revealed a mocking smile. "An ant trying to shake a tree, you overestimate yourself." As soon as his voice fell, he flicked his sleeves. Boom! A monstrous wave, accompanied by a powerful attack, came crashing down. Yun Ruohan, Leng Yumor, Ling Yusheng, and Luo Yu, who were standing at the very front, were directly thrown to the ground. Their blood and qi churned, and they almost vomited blood. But Qin Ju suddenly turned around, his iron tower-like body once again blocking Xiao Bao's originally exposed small body. His thick arms trembled, but he held Xiao Bao firmly in his arms. There wasn't even the slightest tremor or jolt. Xiao Bao's blue eyes widened, and he softly called out, "Second martial uncle." Qin Ju revealed a silly smile towards him. However, Jiyu Yochong's next wave of attack arrived. Qin Ju tightly held Xiao Bao in his arms, all the spiritual power in his body condensing on his back. Boom, a loud sound. His figure was ruthlessly sent flying, and he could no longer hold back a large mouthful of blood, spurting it all out. Some of it landed on the ground, and some splashed onto Xiaobao's neck. It was wet and warm. All the bones in Qin Ju's body seemed to emit a crisp sound. His skin and flesh were even more bloody from being scratched by the air blades and the ground. However, Xiaobao, who was in his arms, was well protected and not injured in the slightest. Nguilan clicked her tongue. His skin is thick and he can take a beating. "Heh, old man, watch me catch that kid for you." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Qin Ju. However, just as her hand was about to press down on Qin Ju's head and directly end his life, her expression suddenly changed and she quickly turned her body. A dagger gleaming with a cold light slashed across her neck. Ling Yusheng's beautiful face was expressionless. Seeing that his attack had failed, he immediately disappeared. When he reappeared, it was another fatal attack that caught Nguyen off guard. However, there was no trace of panic on Nguyen's face. Instead, she was overflowing with interest. Hey, interesting, really interesting. The speed of a fasting cultivator was actually able to catch up to us. Old man, this kid is too interesting. Why don't we bring him back? As she spoke, she suddenly stretched out her hand. At the same time, powerful spiritual power and pressure spread wildly. Chapter 1694. The next moment, Ling Yusheng's groan could be heard in the air. Nguyen's withered hand quickly grabbed onto Ling Yusheng's snow-white neck, and she let out a carefree laugh. Kid, your innate talent in speed is really too interesting, but it's still too early for you to fight with me. Haha, why don't I extract your spiritual root now and see how you can have such speed? After he finished speaking, his other claw seemed to have succeeded, and it mercilessly grabbed towards Ling Yusheng's chest. Don't touch my fifth junior brother. Yun Ruohan and Leng Yumor roared in unison and unleashed their domains. Luo Yu's puppets also lined up in a line. The big ones were as large as huge rocks, and the small ones were like flowers scattered by a fairy. They all attacked Nguyen. This time, Jiyu Yochong's expression became even more astonished. 2 domains, and such pure and powerful ones at that. I didn't expect such a small academy to have so many talents. Haha, alright, I'll take you on. Jiyu Yuchong leaped up and casually swung his hand, sending Yun Ruohan and Luo Yu back to their original positions. Under Yun Ruohan's cover, Leng Yumor dodged Jiyu Yochong's attack. Her long blade swept through the air and slashed towards Nguyen. Nguyen's movements were indeed obstructed. However, she didn't get angry. Instead, she laughed loudly and threw the nearly unconscious Ling Yusheng to the ground. Her withered hand grabbed the air, and a small silver hammer appeared in her palm. She smashed it towards Leng Yumor's blade. With 2 loud bangs, Leng Yumor and Yun Ruohan were both sent flying, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. Behind Yun Ruohan, a scarlet claw chased after her. The red claw emitted a scorching aura. Wherever it passed, rocks would shatter and plants would wither. The scarlet claw seemed to have a life of its own as it chased after Yun Ruohan. Eldest senior brother, Luo Yu cried out in shock. Without hesitation, she pounced forward and used her back to block Yun Ruohan. With a loud bang, Luo Yu's back emitted a faint silver glow before disappearing in a flash. The crimson claws did not manage to pierce through Luo Yu's back, but Luo Yu still spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted from the intense collision. Xiaoqi. Yun Ruohan's heart was breaking. She hugged the unconscious Luo Yu, her cheeks turning as red as blood. Jiyu Yuchong and Nguyen had already gathered together leisurely. Looking at the mess on the ground, they were calm and unruffled. Interesting, interesting. These little fellows are all very interesting. But it's still troublesome to bring so many. How about this? Let's dig out their spirit roots and bring them back for research. Nguyen smiled warmly. That's exactly what I was thinking. No. You. Guys. Injury. Harm. Me. Master. Uncle. Master. Uncle. A powerful and cold childish voice suddenly rang out. Then, the simple and unadorned Bixia sword burst out with a dazzling light, carrying Xiao Bao as it charged toward Jiyu Yuchong and Nguyen. In that instant, the spiritual energy in the air suddenly changed violently. A terrifying pressure and nomological laws faintly concealed in the air caused Jiyu Yuchong and Nguyen's expressions to change. What's going on? Is the air surging with immortal energy? How is this possible? This is the cultivation continent, how can there be immortal energy to use? Although this was what she told herself, you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.